Hey guys, my name is Avionics and today I'm going to be showing you how I made this Santa hat in Blender so that you can make it too for whatever you want to do, whether it's Roblox, scene creation, or more. Stay tuned and I hope you enjoy the video. Okay, so the first thing I always do is I import a Roblox rig out of Roblox Studio. And how I do that is just like this. Alright, so first thing I'm going to do is once we open up Roblox Studios, I'm going to show you how I import my rigs into Blender for ease of access, as most of everything I make is for Roblox and for Roblox avatars. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to navigate from home to the toolbox, and then I'm going to search for R6. We just need an R6 dummy or rig to add right into the scene. So once we find ours, I'm using this one, just drag it right in. Then what we can do is we can select it, should be in a group, and we're going to ungroup it. We're going to select all of these parts: head, humanoid root, left arm, left leg, right leg, and torso. We're going to right click that, and we're going to press export our selection. Then we're going to name it R6 rig, and we'll make sure that it exports as an OBJ. Then what we're going to do is we're going to open up a new project in Blender. What we're going to do is we're going to go File, Import, OBJ. We're going to go to our downloads and we're going to go to the R6 rig OBJ that we saved. And we're going to double click that and it will spawn right in. But we can see it's all the way over there. We kind of want him right here. So we're going to right click, Set Origin, Geometry to the Origin. Now what we can do is we can go to our Y side view, press G and Z, and move him up to the top so that we have him right in place for what we want to do. Now, if we press Tab and go into our edit mode, and we can kind of see that all of this topology is just a lot. We don't need that much. So what we can do is we can select everything by pressing A in the edit mode, and we can press Alt J. And what that's going to do is it's going to make our tris to quads, making a very uniform mesh. It won't really matter because we're only using this as a reference in Blender, and if you have a little bit of a slower PC, it's just totally easier to work with if you have way less tris. So that's how we bring that in. So the first thing we do once we get our model in here posted on to the standard grid right in the center is we are going to add in a circle. So we're going to press Shift A, go to our mesh, and then add a circle in. Now currently it's set at 32 vertices, and that's kind of a lot for what we're doing. So we're going to set that down to 18, right about half. Once we have that set, we're going to have to move it up onto the head of our rig. So we're going to do that by pressing G to move the circle, and then Z because we want to go up on the Z axis. And we're kind of going to align it somewhere around there. Once we get that in, we're going to have to scale it because we don't want our Santa hat to be that big. So we're going to press S for scale. We're just going to bring it so that's just a little bit bigger than the actual head. Somewhere about there. And you can see all of my controls down here if you ever need a reference on what exactly I'm doing. So once we have this laid out right here, we're going to tab into our vertex mode. I have a add-on called Machine Tools, but other than that, you can just press tab, that'll shift you into edit mode, and then press 1, which will put you into the vertex mode. So what we're going to do is we're going to navigate to our Y view so that we can kind of see what we're working with here. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to extrude it upwards so that we start building our three-dimensional shape. So to do that, we're going to press E, and that's going to extrude it, and then we're going to press Z so that it goes straight up on the Z axis. Once we have it about there, we're just going to scale it up just a little bit. Then what we're going to do is we're going to do that again with E and Z. And then we're going to do it again. E, Z, and then S to scale it down just a little bit. So that we have something like that, just the start of our hat. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill this. Now we're not too concerned about topology because this is just going into Roblox, but as you can see this would become what is called an n-gon. We don't really like to work with n-gons, but it's okay for what we're doing right now. So once we got that top part selected, we're going to now inset that. And to inset, we press I. Then we're going to bring that in just a little bit. And we are now going to go to the X side view so we can kind of see what we're doing from the side. I'm now going to extrude this upwards with E. And I'm going to press S to scale it. And then R to rotate it backwards just a little bit. And I'm going to continue that process until I build my shape. E, S, R. Maybe scale it down just a little bit more. G to move it. E, S, R. Maybe rotate a little bit more. Scale it just a little bit more. E, R, G, S to scale. Bring it down a little bit more, maybe a little more rotation. E, S, R. Bringing that down. A little bit more, maybe a little bit more rotation. Scale it. E, S. Alright, so now we have something like this. And if we refer back to the reference, which I'll put right over the screen, you'll see that it kind of goes over to the side a little bit. It doesn't just come straight back. And right now it looks very blocky, but we'll fix that in a moment. First, what we're going to do is we're going to tab into edge mode. So pressing tab and then pressing 2, that'll put us into edge mode. We're going to alt click on these sets of vertices, these sets of edges. And what we're going to do is we want to move it over, but we want to move it over as a group. We don't just want this. So we're going to use a tool called proportional editing. With proportional editing, it's this little tool up here. You can also press O to enable it. And that's going to move our mesh with however big of a diameter circle is around it. So if I wanted to kind of warp it, that's how I would use that. So I'm going to go to the top view so I can see what I'm doing a little bit better. And I'm going to press R for rotate. And I'm just going to zoom this in a little bit. And just move it over a little bit. Maybe move it down just a little bit. Now I'm going to select these edges by alt clicking. And I'm just going to move this over. Then I'm going to go press 3 for face mode, and I'm going to move this over as well. Maybe bring it down a little bit, scale it, something like that. Now I can also come in if I want to move it over a little bit more and select maybe this edge right here. Just move it over a little bit more. Move it over a little bit more. And move it over just ever so slightly more. Alright. So now we have kind of our base shape. It still looks really blocky, so what we're going to do is we're going to press tab and go out of our edit mode so that we're in object mode. Or we can click up here. Pressing tab is the keybind for that though. And we're going to right click and we're going to shade it. We're going to shade it auto smooth. Now we can still see this looks very, very blocky, and we don't really want that. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a subdivision surface modifier onto this. So to do that, we can go to our toolbar over here for our modifiers, add a modifier. I just click on search and add a subdivision surface modifier. And right now, by one viewport, resolution is fine for what we're doing. So what we're going to do now is we're going to press tab and go into edit mode and then press 2 for our edge mode. Once we're in there, we're going to add a few loop cuts so that we can kind of make these edges a little bit harder. We're going to press Ctrl R to do that. I'm going to add one right here. So if you hover over with your mouse, it'll make a line in yellow, and then if you click, it'll set that loop cut in, and then you can kind of move it to where you want to put it. And I'm going to put it more up towards the top, almost all the way, but not all the way. I'm going to do that on the same part, just on the top, and move that outwards, and repeat on the bottom. Control R, bring that down, and that should be good for our start. Now what we can do is, if we don't want such a big curve right here, we can select by going into edge mode by pressing tab and 2, making sure we're in that edit mode up here, selecting these edges, going into our X side view, and making sure our proportional editing is still on. Maybe not selecting it too much, but just bringing it down. And maybe these ones too, just bringing it in and down a little bit. So that kind of has more of that organic, natural, droopy look. We'll right click that, just make sure it's still shaded smooth. And you can kind of see how it has these almost like stretching marks from that subdivision surface modifier that we added. So to change that, we're going to go make sure that we're still in edit mode, pressing 3 to go into face mode, and then clicking this bottom face, and we're just going to add an inset, which is kind of like doing a reverse loop cut, so that it adds more topology so that it solidifies out. So we're going to do that by pressing I, just bringing that in a little bit. And we don't have to worry about how this is looking too much because we're going to put the fuzz ball right there. So no worries there. Awesome. So now we got this look so far. Looks pretty alright. Alright, so now that we're here, we're going to add the puff ball in. How we're going to do that is we're going to press Shift A, add in a UV sphere, and we're going to make this 32 and 16. Once we have that, we're going to right click it, shade it auto smooth, and we are just going to bring this up by pressing G, scaling it, and just kind of aligning it to where it's to go. Somewhere like there. Maybe make it a little bit bigger. Yeah, that looks good. Alright, now I'm going to select it, and I'm going to press tab to go into our edit mode, and 1 to go into our vertex mode. I'm then going to press F3 and type in randomize. What that's doing is it's kind of giving it more of that randomization so that later on it can look more like that puffball look we're going for. I'm going to turn that amount to somewhere like 0.25. Maybe make the uniform a little bit less, and the normal, just a little bit of a tweak right there. Now, it kind of looks chaotic, but once we shade it smooth, it kind of has more of that puffball look. And now we have our base mesh for our hat. The last thing we're going to do now is I'm going to go back into our edit mode on our main mesh. I'm going to Alt click on these bottom vertices, and I'm just going to fill it because you're not really looking at the person's head, so having it filled just allows from any reverse normals or anything bad from happening with your mesh. So we can just add that in there like that. Awesome. Now what we're going to do is we're going to section off the hat so that we can apply our textures. I'll put the textures that I use down in the description below, and you guys are free to use that texture. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into our edit mode and go into our side view, hold down Z and go to our wireframe view, and we're going to select all of these vertices, these bottom ones. Now I'm control selecting on some of these that I selected that I don't want selected, so that we have all of these bottom ones, because that's going to be that first white, like fluffy part. And what I'm going to do is, for now, I'm going to press P and selection. And what that's going to do is separate it by a selection. So if we tab out of our edit mode, we just have this part now. And that just kind of makes it easier for our UV unwrapping that we're going to be doing. So now that we come in here, we're going to press A to select everything. We're going to press U and Smart UV Project. What that's going to do is it's going to make our UV mapping for our texture. So we're going to UV unwrap that. Now we're going to go to our UV editing tab, and we'll have our UVs here. And we are going to open up that file for that texture that we have. It's right here. We're going to select all of these, scale them down a little bit, and pressing G, we're going to move them over. Just put them right there. Now if we hold down Z and we go to our material preview, we're going to come down here to our material properties, add in a new material, select our base color right here with the yellow dot, and we're going to make that an image texture. Then on the image texture, we're going to press the drop down and we're going to select that texture that we have. And that kind of gives us this texture that we selected. Now it's not perfect, and if we want to wrap it up, I'll be posting a video soon on UV unwrapping, how to do it a little bit more properly so it doesn't look as rough. But we're going to keep moving with the actual top part now. What we're going to do is repeat the same process. We're going to tab into our vertex mode by pressing tab and 1, selecting everything, pressing U, and then we can do a Smart UV Project or we can do an unwrap. For this one, I'm just going to unwrap it. Then I'm going to go to our UV editing tab, select everything that we have here, and we're just going to scale this so that it's something like that. Then I'm going to go back into our layout tab, click on this drop down, and add that same material so that we have that same material. Now we can see it gets like a little bit bigger at this top here. So what we can do for that is we can go to our UV editing and we can just select some of those, make sure we have proportional editing on, and just maybe make them a little bit bigger so that they don't kind of thin out so much. And that should help with the problem a little bit. And then what we can do is on this back, we can just throw that texture on there and go into our UV editing, press A, scale this down, and just put it right on over. Doesn't have to be perfect. And there we have it. We have our fully completed Santa hat or Christmas hat, textured and ready. Now the only thing we have to do left now is to make it one singular mesh. So how we do that is we're going to select all 3 parts and we're going to press Ctrl J. And what that's going to do is it's going to make it into one mesh. Now you can kind of see how the mesh changed a little bit. It went from kind of smooth like that to a little bit more blocky. Now if you like it a little bit more blocky, that's perfectly fine. But if you want to fix it so that it is smooth again, you can just reapply that subdivision surface modifier by pressing Ctrl and 1. And I'll add that subdivision surface modifier right back. Now if you're trying to add this to the UGC store, it'd be best if you didn't have the subdivision surface because it does have a max try count of 4,000 to put it on the UGC store. But if you're just trying to add it to Roblox, having it like this with one subdivision is perfectly fine because you can import anything up to 10,000. That's not completely optimized, but it does still work. If you enjoyed this tutorial, thank you for stopping by. Please come back and watch more of my tutorials. Leave a like, a comment, and please subscribe. It's great having you watching and doing this tutorial with me today. Hope to see you again soon. See ya.